Yo, what is going on, and welcome to another episode of the Urban Pitch Podcast, the beautiful game of life, part of the Believe Network. I'm Ramsey Abushala, editor of UrbanPitch.com. Julio Monterosa, co-executive director of Vibes. He's the full-time executive director.
It feels like it sometimes.
Yeah. Bridget Flores not able to make it, unfortunately, but we do have a very special guest in the building. Former pro player. He's transitioned into the world of creative arts, directing movies, starting his own brand, Neighborhood Sports Club. Max Ornstil, so good to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. Long time coming.
Yeah. We've been trying to make this. I mean, I feel like there's like a handful of people that we've been just kind of playing phone tag with. You were one of maybe a year ago. You were in town. We were trying to make it work. We've been sharing a bunch of the stuff that you've been got going on. So I'm glad we were finally able to get you in while you're in LA. So it's great to have you.
It just makes the episode. There's more to talk about now.
Yeah, right.
A lot has happened in the last year. So.
Yeah, I feel like we should just get into that. Let's talk about, because you've been busy. Yeah. The short film just debuted earlier this week. You got Neighborhood Sports Club. You're traveling to Paris. You're doing all this stuff. Yeah. Just kind of talk about the whirlwind that you've experienced over the last year. Going into different creative ventures.
Totally. This could be pretty long-winded, but I guess. Technically speaking, this is kind of like my second full year kind of retired from playing football professionally. And so that first year was very much just, like you just said, a whirlwind. Starting as simple as like, how do you go about scheduling your weeks, scheduling your days, staying in shape, finding time to do all these different projects and not burning out. That was like figuring out the first year, and really, really proud of everything we did with Neighborhood Sports Club individually as kind of a creator and just getting into this space in that first year. But really, it wasn't sustainable. Like, we put out a bunch of crazy stuff. We did like a couple short films. We did, that project with Kellen Acosta. We did a lot of things in a year, and then kind of got to the end of the year and was like, shit, like that was crazy, but we can't keep going at this rate. And so this year was about finding balance, and sustainability for that. So that's blocking out work hours with my two partners and, having a bit more cadence to operating like a business and really having time where we're working and time when we can recharge and make sure that we don't burn out. And then really it's just continuing to kind of grow and experiment and find myself as, a creative, as an entrepreneur, as just figuring out life after playing football. Because I think as much as you want to prepare for that, and like I even say I was probably one of the more prepared people. Like going into my second year, I played for 6 years. And in my second year, I was already taking informational interviews, trying to figure out what my passions were, things like that. And even still, when my career ended, I was like, well, like this is no joke. And I had a purpose. Like I had something I was really passionate about, but even then it's still, really, really challenging. And so that last year was kind of just finding myself, getting on my feet. And then this year has really been trying to just level up everything we did last year and then be sustainable about it and find some balance and come into the conclusion of like, I want to do this for my career for the rest of my life, and so I got to figure out a way to make this sustainable. But it's been a whirlwind for sure.
Today's episode has been brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online is your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season, from baseball to golf to soccer, right to all the top fights in UFC, MMA, and boxing. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet online, the game starts here.
So when Sean Franklin said when he retired, he couldn't even watch the game anymore. Because you're like, how does this bum still have a contract? And I don't. Did you feel like that when you first retired?
There's definitely an aspect of like, oh, I could still be doing that. And like, especially like personally, I retired just before turning 29. And so as a competitor, as someone who grew up wanting to play professionally, that's earlier than I wanted to retire, to keep it, a buck. But really it kind of came to the point of, where am I going to find the most joy? And at that point, it was moving on from footy and doing neighborhood sports club. But kind of to your point, that competitor in you does not turn off. Even still, to this day, I have trouble of watching games and being like, damn, like I could probably still do that, if I put some training in. So that doesn't go away.
No, definitely. Sure. One of my good friends, he pro Edwin Rivas. We don't like watching games because the minute we start watching the game, we start analyzing. Like, he should have made that run. Yeah. He should have done that run. Like, this guy's a bum. And like, literally, like we're like, yeah, we can't do what they're doing.
That's the fun of it, though. Yeah. Is talking that shit a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So now you came out with the film last week. Not gonna lie, made me cry. No, definitely it brought emotions because like as a kid, like the highest level I played was college, but like. Knowing Will, like when I remember like growing up, I wanted to be a pro as well. Then I got to college, and I'm like, yeah, it's not gonna happen. These guys are 10 times better than me. Like, I'm lucky if I even see the field. Yeah. So like, you start realizing like, all right, this dream of mine that I had since I was 6 years old, like, I guess even though we're trying, like, we know how this is gonna end. Yeah. Like, I knew when it got time that it was over for me, but. Like, because I didn't believe it until like it was like the day of, and was it same for you? You were like, dang, like I know it's coming, but was one thing that you're like, yeah, this is the time.
Yeah, well, I kind of so I had an injury all of my last year playing, and I kind of knew that my contract was up at the end of the year. I kind of knew I need to play this year to re-sign a contract, and especially just where I was in my career, I really wasn't able to, I didn't want to go anywhere else. I wanted to stay in Oakland and play in Oakland. So I knew I had to play that year. And like I said, I was hurt. And so I wasn't getting better either. And so I was kind of at this point where I was like, I can either sit out the rest of the year and I had this really bizarre injury. It's called athletic pubalgia, where it's like my adductor connects to my pubic bone. It was a weird injury. And essentially they said, like, you can wait and it could maybe get better. It might take a year or 18 months, we don't know. Or, you can just play through it, take antibiotics, and just try and get through it. And so at this stage, I knew I kind of have to play to try and do it. And yet I was in a lot of pain. And so I was going out there and playing at as little as like 60, 70%. Like I couldn't sprint, I couldn't hit a long ball. And, as a D-mid, not being able to run or hit, ping a ball were pretty important things. Like even just getting into a lunge, it was like pretty excruciating pain. And so I kind of was like, all right, well, let me just at least try and give myself a shot. And so I played that last year at a fraction of myself. And so like, I saw the writing on the wall. Like I'm going out there, like a guy runs by me, I can't run after him. And so it's just like, I know I'm not going to get re-signed at that point. And so like, I've been in therapy the last 3 years. I was in therapy during that last year. And like, I was having conversations with my therapist where I'm literally like, I still held out hope because I still thought I brought a lot to the table if I got healthy and just as someone, as a leader, as someone in the locker room. So I still thought there was an opportunity to continue playing. But I think in reality, I kind of saw the writing on the wall of like, this is probably going to be my last year. And so I tried to prepare for that. Like even, I had conversations about like the likelihood of me not continuing playing. And like, I low-key got to grieve during the end of that last year. And it literally, like I say grieve, because it really felt like part of me was dying in a way. And so like I had that end of the season where I kind of saw it coming, and then the off season happened where it gets finalized of like, we're not bringing you back. And yeah, it hit. It really didn't hit until like the following preseason started. Cause that's when like typically you'd return back to playing, and like, I was like, well, I'm not going to preseason. I'm working on neighborhood sports club. So like, it was helpful that I had, again, like a purpose to go into and something I was really, really passionate about. But like, there were days when, it would just like hit me, just a ton of emotion would hit me of just like, damn, like I'm really not doing this anymore, you know? And you can't really prepare for that. As much as I saw it coming, it was just like, it feels like part of you dies.
Now that you play pickup, because you play with high-level players, now that you play pickup, and you see that one person that can give you a 1 to the save day of your life, how do you feel about that?
It's funny. It's funny you say that because we have a weekly pickup that we host every Thursday. Today is Thursday. So we had pickup this morning, and it was a pretty typical pickup, pretty good level compared to usual, but. So our pickup is open to all levels. And so kind of like you mentioned, we have some guys who just picked up football in the last like 2 years, 3 years. And I think going back to that competitiveness, like I think me 5-6 years ago would be like losing my mind at, trying to play with people, struggling to give a 1-2. But now I think just my perspective on just the entirety of like football as a whole, like I'm much more, let me rewind a little bit. I think I used to see football in such a performance lens. It was like, cause all I wanted to be was a professional. Yeah. So all that matters was performing at the highest level. And so as a kid, with me and my best friend, my business partner, we're all just about training to be the best players possible to try and play professionally. That was like single-minded. And then, obviously had my experience playing professionally, and the hyper performance side of professional football sometimes can suck the joy out of the game, because there's a lot of BS involved, whether it's injuries, like I mentioned, politics of the game, or just things outside of your control where it can kind of sour that hyper competitive side. And so the last couple of years has been like finding out how the non-hyper performance side can just be so welcoming to invite more people into football, whether it's through, design and fashion, or filmmaking and storytelling, or all these different kind of creative things other than the performance side of football, that like I now kind of have had this shift of mindset of like, I want more people involved in football, even if you don't know how to play. Even if you're just learning how to play, like come to pickup, I'll pass you the ball, and like I'll try and make sure you have success, like one touch right back, or like, I'm not going to give it to you with 3 people around you, knowing that you're new to football. So I think there's definitely an element of like, as a competitor, like I'm very competitive too. Like I used to struggle playing anything other than really competitive, and I still do at times. But I think a blessing of like the pickup that we host and having people just learning football is that like it's caused me to kind of turn that down a little bit. and I think that's good, because if I was just learning football and someone passed me a ball and I messed up and I got a bunch of attitude, or someone, yelling at me, I'd probably be like, I don't know if I want to come play football next time. Definitely. And so being on the other end of that, it's like I want people to, they make a mistake, give them encouragement, things like that, where it's just like, whether you want to play at a high level or not, like come under this football umbrella, because like football has given me everything. It's given me my best friends, it's given me all these passions, and it's like I want more people under that umbrella to experience the good things, So as much as it can be tough, I think it's also caused me to grow, I'm trying to look at it in the best way possible. But no, I think I struggle. So like I do pretty good with our pickup. I struggle with like for example, this last year, I played with the team in the Open Cup a little bit.
All right.
And so that there's like something on the line,
Definitely.
It wasn't like, it wasn't professional, it wasn't pickup, but it was kind of in between. Yeah. And so I was kind of stuck of like, I would get too competitive, but then like, because they were obviously playing for something, it was competitive, but then it wasn't professional. It wasn't the professional level, and so I was kind of.
Was that El Farolito?
We actually played against El Farolito.
What a great story for them.
Yeah. What a story! What a story! Shout out El Farolito. They got a squad and some great food, great burritos. Great tacos. No, they really do. Like it's not like it's not made up.
We had a guy write a story for the site. He's up in the Bay Area, and he was he kind of did a feature on the restaurant in addition to the team itself.
Nice.
And the way he was describing the food, that he got photos of the food and stuff, I was like, yo, man, I gotta go.
It's good.
I had to go down the street to the local spot to get me, because it made me want to go there, but also it made me hungry for a burrito. So that's it's just an incredible story.
Have you had Mexican food down here?
I have,
Which is better?
but we don't need to get into that. We don't need to get into that. If you have a recommendation, I would love to take you up on it.
Avenue 26 is around.
No, you're in Mid City, so Leo Tacos is like the most popular thing.
Okay.
Right.
Leo's.
Yeah.
I'll have some. I'll let you guys know after this trip how it compares.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
And
so
then-
and
then when you guys come up, I'll take you
Okay,
guys.
for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'm
sure.
Salvadorian, so I know the Bay Area got some great Salvadorian food too.
No,
so.
we do.
Yeah, so
For sure.
Okay, so I want to talk about the film. So Dare to Dream made its debut this week. You've been working on it for a long time. It talks about your growth as a kid. You're obviously talking to yourself. You write a letter to yourself as a kid. Talk about you growing up, your experience. You're Bay Area native. You got to play for Oakland Roots. Like that must have been an amazing experience. But what was it like for you growing up playing the game? How did you fall in love with it? Because I know the Bay has talking to a lot of people that have played there and that are from there.
Yeah.
There's a vibrant scene up there. So what was it like for you?
rich history as well.
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
soccer.
No, I think the Bay's football kind of scene is a little slept on, to be honest. But to go back, so I grew up. It's interesting that we just say that it has a slept on football culture, because when you think of Bay Area sports, a lot of times you think of, you got the Raiders, you had the Raiders, Niners, Warriors, A's, Giants, and so it's a hub for all the typical kind of American big sports. And yet again, there's like this huge football scene too. But growing up, it was, my mom played tennis her whole life and played professionally for a bit, and my dad played basketball and baseball, and so soccer was nowhere to be found. But thank goodness for my sister, who she started playing at 7, 8, because just naturally as little kids you play rec soccer at 7, 8, and so I was the little brother that just followed their big sister around. So she started playing at, like I said, 7, 8. So then I started kicking the ball around at 4, 5. And I did other sports as a kid, played like pee-wee baseball, basketball, football, all that kind of stuff. But soccer, I mean, just from the jump, I really gravitated towards it. And then, I mean, quickly from there, I played just for like my local club team. It's called Bay Oaks at the time, and we had a really good team. And actually, kind of a little bit of a tangent, but that tournament in Paris that we just played in, a lot of my childhood teammates from that team, we all went together on that trip. Cool. So that was really special. Cool. But no, it was interesting because I was a kid obsessed with soccer in the Bay Area, where there really wasn't a pathway to play professionally. And so really early on as a kid, I had the dream of playing professionally. And yet at the time, the Earthquakes were the local professional team, but really in Oakland, like there really was not much of a connection to the Earthquakes. And so that was always just kind of like a far off, distant kind of dream, goal, whatever you want to call it, of one day I want to play professionally. And yet, how, I really didn't know at the time, but it was really just like, I'm going to do whatever I can to do that. And so, yeah, I played, I don't know how long you want me to go into my football story.
No, I
here.
mean, this is long form
Yeah, definitely.
media. So.
Because the Bay, they have a mixed culture of soccer, meaning they have that big Hispanic Latin culture, but then they also have the old school U.S. soccer type of way of playing. So it's like two mixed styles. Like, how did you enjoy that? How did you learn from that?
I think so. What I do love about kind of what you kind of just mentioned about the Bay's culture in general, but specifically the soccer culture, is just like the diversity of it. So obviously you have the Latin American part of the Bay Area, where my first soccer team, a lot of that team was people from Mexico, El Salvador, Guatemala. But then we have there's a lot, I mean, Oakland's one of the most diverse places in the world. So like my childhood team, we had guys from Eritrea, we had guys from Afghanistan, we had kids from the nice parts of the hills. We had kids from the deep east. Like, it was such a melting pot just on this team where, like, my best friend partner, his dad is French. Like, we just had such a mix of different cultures around football. I mean, all these countries have football in their identity, and yet that was all being blended with the Bay Area culture at the same time. And so, I feel like you really just felt that in the different ways that people played. Like, each team had their own little identities on the clubs, but then kind of, again, each of these different, one of my friends, they each had a different style of play that I would, pick something up from. And then also just being inspired by, like, that era of football, like when that formative age of, 8 to like 14, that was like Joga Bonita era. That was, the prime
total 90,
the prime T90, where we were obsessed with all the new cleats, all the jerseys. And I think that's where secretly a lot of this interest in, like, the design kind of culture side of things really started, was at that early age. But really just football in the Bay it's a really underrated, I would say, scene and culture that, hopefully we can play a part in magnifying that and kind of showing people that there really is a crazy football scene up there.
No, definitely. I believe Hugo Perez is one of the better U.S. soccer minds that we have right now. And he had a big part in the Bay, coaching in the Bay. He lived in the Bay. His sons grew up there. And he's the reason we found Palouse. We found half of the national team. So, just like that eye for talent out there is crazy.
Yeah, and I think what the Roots have done in terms of magnifying that the scene out there, and
totally.
They're getting a bunch of fans to come out to their games. They're making waves not only across the country but across the world too.
Yeah.
So I think you're starting to see it a little bit more. What was it like being a part of that, coming back? You went to college still in the area, but then your pro career kind of took you a couple of different places. But what was it like coming back to be a part of
hometown team,
the rising kind of magnification of this scene that you grew up in?
It was surreal. It was surreal. I mean, kind of like I mentioned, when I was a kid, there wasn't a local pro team to look up to. Like, the Earthquakes did not feel local, and so when I was playing in Portland when the Roots announced themselves as a team. And I had kind of heard, like, when I'd come home for the off season, I would always hear kind of rumblings of, like, oh, like, people are trying to start a team here. They're thinking about starting a team. And it was always like, that would be dope. Like, I would love to at some point come back. And, like, I always kind of saw it as, like, let me try and play it at the highest level I can. And hopefully by then they'll kind of reach a level where that could be kind of like riding off into the sunset type of vibe. But then it happened quick, where that COVID year, 2020, they went from literally, I don't know if they were in NISA or what they were in, but they went from, I think, NISA to then USL Championship in a year.
Right. They're supposed to join a different league, maybe like NPSL or UPSL at first. And then they went to NISA, and then, like you said, like, kind of overnight, it was like all of a sudden, oh,
but even prior to that, even like when they just started, I was following from afar. I was wearing the t-shirts when I was in Portland, and definitely, like, I mean, watching from afar, it was like they were doing all the things that I wished a club would do if I was a kid growing up there, or like they represented all that I wanted a club to be as a kid. Like, I talk about it a little bit in the film, but like they had 510 on our jersey.
I saw that.
Like, my screen name was like Little Mo 510. Like, that's an iconic part of like being from that area, is like that area code is like, and that's on the jersey. Like, all the marketing was like they're using Bay music. Like, you got Mr. Fab like doing voiceover. Like, their opening player announcement, Devontae, one of my close friends, they got like scrapers doing donuts around him. Like, it very much represented Oakland in the way they were operating. And so, as someone who was very proud to be from Oakland, it was surreal to have that opportunity. And so when they made that jump, kind of out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, damn, like, this has happened a little sooner than I thought, but like, it's an opportunity you can't turn down, to play for your hometown. And so, and at that point, at the same time, the T2, the team that I was on, they were not folding, but they were stopping the second team.
Yeah.
The same year that the Roots were jumping up. So it really, I mean, it was a no-brainer.
Right.
And yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah. No, me and Ramsey had the pleasure to go out there to watch a game. Thank you for the invite, Idris. Like it was a great time, and just seeing how how the city backs up the team, like and it's unapologetically Oakland. Like that team, it's Oakland to the max, and it's crazy from the ownership group having Marshawn Lynch, like G-Eazy, like to like
super dope.
Yeah. So Idris telling us how he had that the lower level team and they're all Oakland kids from the city with that pathway to come up to play for the first team. So it's crazy.
Yeah. And then now with there's talks of the stadium coming, like there's upwards trajectory. What do you see like the future for the team now that things are starting to go up even further? Yeah,
I mean, I think sky's the limit. I mean, I won't speak for the club, but I feel like they have every opportunity to continue to move up. I mean, I don't see why MLS shouldn't be a goal. Again, that's not my that's not my decision to make. But as someone from there, it's like I would love. Again, like we lost these professional sports teams, and so it's great to have these teams as representations and like just beacons for the city. And so I don't see why they can't go MLS, or I don't see why they can't have their own stadium that's sold out with 10s, 20, 30,000 people, 40,000 people there in the coming years. I think it's about building it, and I think they're doing that the right way and doing it organically and from the ground up. And I think there's a lot of parallels in what we're doing with Neighborhood Sports Club. I think it's just a matter of time, really. Because I think a really big, kind of just going back a little bit, like a really big moment for me and even my business partner Dylan, who played for the Roots too. Like you mentioned, you guys saw the atmosphere. Were you guys at Laney?
We were at Laney.
Yeah, that atmosphere was incredible. And so, I played at Laney, Dylan played at Laney, where you're looking around and you're seeing 6,000 people there, over capacity. They have more people there than seats. And it was kind of just like proof for us as kids from there that like people really do love football here. Like we knew it because we were part of it, but once you see a whole stadium full of people wearing the gear, like it was like this community is real and they show up. And so that was a big thing for us, is like, okay, they're showing up for the Roots games, like this community is real. Where's everybody going the other 6 days a week, 22 hours a day? Because, we are part of that culture. We want to live that outside of game day too. And so I think it's just a matter of time before the infrastructure catches up. I think that's where we're a little bit behind, is that we have the passion, we have the community, we have the team. We're starting to get the teams and the brands, but it's like infrastructure. That's what's going to kind of be sustainable. So it's them building their own stadium, us building our own facility, a space where people can continue to come together. And it's just, it's a challenge. I know it's a challenge because I'm trying to do it myself. I'm dealing with real estate. And so I know that it's going to be difficult, but you see year by year they're making progress. And I think next year, I don't know, I think it's official. I'm not trying to break any news, but I think they're officially going to be in the Coliseum next year. So that should be crazy. I'm excited to see that. And then, again, sky's the limit. I'm really a believer of the Bay Area, specifically Oakland, being a special place. And so I think it's just a matter of time where all we need is a chance, and I think we have the start we need. Now it's just kind of building from here.
But the Bay Area fan has always been known as a great fan base. Just talking about I Believe of Warriors. They talk about how the atmosphere, people were even smoking weed in the stands while they're playing. Nobody can tell them nothing. But not only that, but the Bay Area legends come out and support, and that's a great thing. One thing about the Bay, you don't have to you don't have to go nowhere else. As long as you break ground in the Bay, you're good for life. For sure. So, but they come out and support anything Oakland. They come out and support. So you can see the atmosphere. You can see the people just backing up the team, and it's amazing because back in the days, every time people talked about soccer, football, they think about us as like the immigrant sport, and nobody else is gonna watch it but kids of immigrants or parents coming from different countries. So it shows like, and it was a family orientated place as well. And and like I'm gonna say 90% of the people were wearing the gear, and then anybody was wearing anything else. Like nobody was just showing up with a regular white tee. And it was all Oakland Roots.
They bullied you into getting a sweater. I did. he felt left out.
I bought two. I bought one for the Oakland Roots and the Soul.
Let's go.
So they did believe me. You remember that?
It worked.
But it's just like, and then like everything like from the designs is all Oakland. It's nothing like, they're not reinventing anything. Like they're not trying to be like super fashionable, even though they are. It's like Oakland.
Right. Yeah. And I think even when it comes to the music, like, the Bay Area is like, because before, like in the early 2000s, there's very much regionalized sounds, right? The West Coast had their own sound, the South had their own sound, New York had their own sound, and the Bay had their own sound. And I think as time went on and, boundaries started to kind of blur a little bit, you have, like A$AP Rocky and Drake taking stuff from the South, some from the New York stuff. It all kind of like melted together, and you don't really have that regional sound anymore, except when it comes to the Bay. The Bay always has had that you can put a Mr. Fab song on it, like, okay, you know what it is already. So I think there's something about that, like, community sense, especially in Oakland, where the people who are from there will rep it all, like, they're very passionate about where they come from.
And you can't tell an Oakland person, somebody from the Bay, about the rappers, because they're the best. They have the biggest slaps. This nation is still popping. Like,
bro, it's a very prideful place.
Very prideful place. Even YG and Tyga had to break ground there before they became famous right in their own city. They had to go to the Bay, got some songs out there, and then they got it popping out here. So it's crazy.
I was slapping a lot of YG in high school.
See, YG started popping in the Bay.
So you said you mentioned you're looking to get a space for neighborhood sports club.
Yeah. So it's funny because that was the goal 2.5 years ago when we first started the company. So kind of, I mentioned that Dylan and I kind of had these aha moments of looking around and seeing the support. Fast forward, maybe I'll just go through like the origin story a little bit, because it speaks to us wanting to have our own space. So Dylan played professionally in France and Norway for a bit. Jordan, our third partner, Dylan and Jordan are getting married in September, actually. But it's the three of us as co-founders, as partners, and they both played professionally in Europe, abroad a bit, and got to see how neighborhoods had these local pitches around them. And then fast forward a little bit, and kind of how each neighborhood, each community really rallied around these local pitches, came together, and there were hubs for people to come together and have this quality time. And then fast forward, Dylan's playing for the Roots, sees kind of the support of the game. I come back and play for the Roots, and I'm spending all the time at Dylan and Jordan's house just hanging out, and they had actually come up with the idea of opening up a space. They said, hey, we would love to open up our own space, call it Neighborhood Sports Club. And one day they were like, hey, Max, like, do you want to be a part of this? Like, are you in? Because I'm literally over there every day. Like, they're working on a business plan, they're talking about it, and it just seemed like this kind of far-fetched dream of like, I would love to have our own space where we have mini pitches, cafe, bar, retail. Like, that'd be a dream. Like, this community is popping, but again, at the same time, like, while we're talking about this, while I'm playing for the Roots and seeing the support, off season comes around, I can't find a pitch to play on without hopping a fence or getting kicked off. I can't find a place to watch the Champions League final. I can't find a place to get cleats or any like football lifestyle apparel, anything about the game. And yet games are sold out. I know this culture is here, but there's nothing to support it. And so we kind of in the neighbor, actually Oakland's pretty small. Dylan and Jordan's current neighborhood, we were driving around and we saw this huge warehouse space that was just like beautiful, and we kind of saw it and we're like, that's the one. Like, that should be our home. Like, we should open up a space with football pitches, cafe bar, retail right here. And very naively thought we could just raise a couple $1 million overnight, put down a deposit, and just lay down some turf and get it popping.
Tech money up there,
right? Right? And so we pursued that building. We actually went after it and quickly realized like we are not prepared to buy a $2 million warehouse.
Rent will be $1 million will be wasted in 3 months.
Yeah, right. But that kick-started the kind of the organization of, hey, let's really go for this. And so we really started to kind of prepare, trying to find real estate spaces. And the goal from that day one was to find a space where we could have 1 to 2 5v5 pitches, a cafe bar, and retail space that was in an accessible area where it could be a community hub for people to come play football, watch games, grab a coffee, grab a beer, glass of wine, kick it, shop, a community, a third space, a creative space, all that stuff. And quickly we kind of realized the challenges with real estate and just the specific needs of our project, and Oakland being a place where real estate is very expensive and there's only so many places that we were looking at wanting to be that kind of had the accommodations of size and price and space and all that. And so I mean, we still are, well, rewind a little bit. We went through a little bit of real estate woes of just trying, going through lease negotiations and just it not working out. And so we kind of said, hey, let's focus on the brand side of things and the community side of things. And let's build those while we keep the real estate search going, but let's grow some of these other aspects of the business too. And so then we started really focusing on the other things like apparel. So we started making our own apparel. We started hosting events and activations, watch parties, 3v3 tournaments, art shows, panels, and then also doing original content and media and storytelling, because these were just things that we just frankly felt like we're missing. We want to wear a cool football shirt, and it's like, well, there's not really many lifestyle brands making football clothing. Let's make our own. We want to have a watch party for this event. Like, let's host our own. Or we want to play a street soccer tournament. Let's just host our own. And then with the storytelling side of things, we just saw there weren't a ton of like real, authentic, grassroots football stories being told, especially in our area. And so we just took a stab at it. And a lot of these things has just been like, taking a stab at it, learning, and having some success, and then trying to level up the next thing. And so back to your question of opening a brick and mortar, that is top of our goals right now. We feel that we've grown the brand, that we've grown the community to a point where we will be successful when we open up a space. And not that we wouldn't before, but now we've built up an identity. Right. We built up a name of who we are, what we do, what we're about, so that when we do open up a space,
you have that.
Exactly.
That people to
exactly.
No, but definitely just looking at your Instagram, just seeing the little short film where you're like, all these pictures are closed. Forget that. We don't need pitches. We can draw lines right here in the pavement and get the thing cracking. So like just seeing that, man, just shows like, yeah, like even like we don't lock them gates. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, that's like that project is like a metaphor for like this whole thing. I mean, I think that speaks so well to like what we're doing and the why, really. It's like that is what we're experiencing. There is a lack of fields, of third spaces where we could build this culture. And so we kind of just have said like, fuck it, we'll build it ourselves. If, like you said, if that means getting a chalk liner and just climbing over a fence and doing it somewhere, like we'll do that. Obviously, now we're at a point where we'd like to, legally have real estate and be able to run a proper business. But it's that mindset of like, we're not going to let these barriers to playing football get in the way of us doing something that we know is inherently good and brings people together and brings people joy. You know, it's like you can't block that.
No, definitely. You remember me the Joe Bonito commercial where it's invite only. They go under the boat. The cage. So
classic.
So it was more something like that. Yeah, like all right, lock everything out. Like hey, the phone call started going around. It's like hey, we got this tournament. All right, I'm sending the team over. So it's like if you know type of thing, and it's amazing. I really enjoyed watching that as well.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. And then, I mean, we had a space out here that was where I met him. Our sister company, Urban Futsal LA, we had, the base where we had a community. People would come either to play or just to hang out. We'd do watch parties, all things. And, I mean, it was the best. It was the best thing ever.
No, definitely. Most of the people that I hang out now is me and him there.
Yeah.
Like this guy and Bridget, that place, It honestly, man, I miss that place sometimes. Sometimes the pictures pop out, and it was like art, hip hop, like watch parties, and a lot of the community was strong. It was a point where after Friday pickups, like, hey, we're going to the spot, and there'll be 30 people rolling deep, on soccer gear,
going to sweaty, going to the ramen spot, and then we'd see the face of the people at the ramen place because I mean it's a small space, and they'd be like, not these guys again,
They stink.
That's funny.
Just add a shower if you do.
Right.
No,
add a shower.
For real. That's good to know.
So I mean, going to the film, because you guys have done several short films, before the Dare to Dream that came out and won multiple awards. Congratulations for that. Thanks. By the way. But where are you? Do you have a film background? Was that something that you were doing before, or is this something you picked up recently?
Not at all. So definitely a recent thing. Definitely like grew up loving film and like loving going to the movies. Mentioned the Jogo Bonito commercials, just really appreciating every element of that, like even the storytelling, the cinematic side of it, aside from just being like obsessed with the concept. So really had no experience with this, and then just kind of, I think we just had an interest, and when we had the brand, the brand has honestly just been an amazing opportunity to try things. And so that the first film that we did, short film, it was Cafe Olé, and that honestly, all of these things have just stemmed from like one little idea, and that started from we heard someone say like Cafe Olé, because there's the drink Cafe Olé, and it just kind of like clicked with us, like Olé, like that's like a football word, like we should do something with that. And then we kind of just were messing around with ideas of like somebody delivering a coffee and getting megged at the same time, and someone saying like, Cafe Olé, like, and then we're like, we should do something with this. And so wrote like a, little story that turns out being a short film. And again, we were just like, let's try doing, a little film here, something that's a little more high production because we're interested in it. Let's just see how it goes. And so, it's really just been, again, just trying it, and then each time we're trying to level it up a little bit. So that first time we had some help with the production side of things, and we're really happy with how it turned out. And then we had the idea for Play Anywhere. So that actually stemmed from one of our good friends, Yasko. He's an artist, Sko Habibi. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him.
Yeah, I remember.
Amazing artist, amazing person, amazing footballer. He's a baller. But he was like saying this idea of like, you should just pull up to this like random park field and just start drawing lines on the field, just like draw a field out of nowhere and film it. And then that kind of started the idea of like, there'd be some really cool like shots of laying the lines of a field. Like there's just some really creative ways you could do that. And then that just kind of kickstarted the idea of like, we should create a field on like a crazy location. And then we're like, well, we should play a game here. We should have it be like friends assembling the ultimate kind of pickup game. And so each one has kind of started with an idea. And then I think personally speaking, the last few years, I just really have developed a passion for storytelling. And I just feel like, again, those Jogo Bonito commercials, like they were able to make such an emotional impact in a short period of time. And so I feel like these stories were like our mini versions of creating those, where we got to pick the story, and we got an opportunity to tell a fun football inspired tale of something that means something to us. And it's really just been, again, just taking a swing at it, and then each time learning from the last time. And I think, again, each time we've tried to be more involved. So I mean, we've written every one, we've played a role in production in every one. We have one coming out really soon that, again, we directed it, we did a lot of the production, and it's been really fun, honestly, just trying it. And I think it's been going well. So I think we're looking forward to just continuing to like come up with these fun ideas and seeing where it goes.
Yeah. The great thing about those films for me as well, especially for me, is that even though like you don't have to be a soccer player to relate to it, if you are a soccer player, you relate to it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like with the retiring, like every athlete knows like when it's time to go, but like there's nothing like that soccer player like the last pair of cleats that you own. Like it brings aside playing sports. Like even playing sports, like you can bring your friends, but that the chalk lines, like that's something soccer that only people that play soccer will know about.
Yeah.
So like 8 a.m. games where like people like the owner of the league or whatever field is putting the lines down. So they're great. It brings an emotional side as an athlete, as a person, but especially as a soccer player, somebody that grew up loving the sport.
That's love. Thanks, bro.
Yeah. Listen, Max, we're running low on time.
Yeah, we can keep going all night.
I know we can keep going, but one thing that we do with our guests before we wrap things up is we like to talk about a little bit about music. So, what's in your rotation right now? Who are you listening to? And what do you got going on for the summer?
That's tough. So, one of my homies just asked me like yesterday. He's like, who have you been listening to recently? And I'm like, so actually, off of that, I've been listening to a lot of French rap because when we were in Paris at this tournament, they had a DJ playing music constantly throughout warm-up, throughout the game even, and literally like every other song we're taking out our phone like Shazamming it. Who is this? Yeah. And then there's a specific artist who's from the neighborhood who actually plays in the tournament. His name is Guy Dubesbar. And he's like one of the bigger rappers in France, and he's a baller too. So I've been listening to a lot of him, Guy Dubesbar. I'll play some after. He slaps. But really, I haven't been listening to a lot of new music. I've been going through a lot of just my classics. I mean, Larry June, he's been on rotation a lot. He's featured. He's featured in a lot of our NSC stuff. I mean, I'm a class, like I love Currency. I love Dom Kennedy. He's
that era right there, bro. Like
it's undefeated. Yeah.
Like then Nipsey coming up.
Nipsey was a very big influence for me too. And like I still listen to him when I go on a run, work out. So I honestly, I wouldn't say I'm sleeping on new music, but I'm just not. I don't really have the energy to like find new music. So I've just been like going deep on like my own SoundCloud, my old SoundCloud, or just the classics.
Because it's not the same going to Dat Piff and looking at a new artist. Like kids want to get that. Like
Dat
Piff was like I used to go and like look who's Currency's new mixtape's dropping. Lil Wayne's dropping. Once Lil Wayne's mixtape was dropping, it was crazy. I had a Detroit phase like Roy's the 5'9", Kid Vicious. So like that Piff era like showed me so much music, but like I don't have time for that.
And I think I mean you're around our age too, so I think everyone that we ask that's our age has that same kind of answer of it's like maybe one or two like kind of current artists that are coming out with new and exciting stuff, but nothing hits like the stuff that we grew up on, the stuff that was coming out in that 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013 era of just everything just seemed like it was the most important thing in the world, and that stays with you as you age, and I'm in the same boat. I know I talked to Julio at the same time. It's like why would I listen to this when this is way better for me? At least
I got old Kanye still playing in the background,
old Kanye undefeated.
No, but I just started listening to Mexican OT just because his cadence is just like Paul Wall.
Right.
So they have a song together, and once I started listening to them two together in one song, I went into a whole wormhole. Like next thing I want to sleep at 4 a.m. have to wake up at work at 7. I'm like, why did I do this? So that's why I don't do it no more, because I wake up tired.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah. I mean that's just.
I'm trying to think. If there's some new artists that I would have. Let me pull out my phone. But really, there's been a lot of French rap. Like, it goes crazy.
They have like the double time flow where it works specifically for French.
Yeah.
There's one song that my buddy just sent to me. It's with Sideshow. And it's Sideshow, and then the French guy. I forget the French guy's name, but he's like my dad speaks French. He's from Lebanon, so and I took like French in high school. So I recognize like every maybe 7th or 8th word on there, but it's like it's crazy how fast like they can like. I feel like the double time works, and then the drill beats like that they rap over is like it's like sick. Perfect. It's like a perfect match. You know?
Yeah. I just looked at my phone, reminded me a couple names, a bit newer. Okay. Well, not that new, but Rex Life Raj, another Bay Area artist. Okay. Love Rex Life Raj. Hit Boy. I also love Hit Boy, as an artist as well as a producer. Yeah. I mean, in that same world as like Nipsey, Dom, you know.
He just came out with something with his dad.
Yeah, big.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Very heartwarming story.
Yeah,
I don't know if I love Big Hit as much as a rapper as I do Hit Boy, but
just social media goes crazy. I just like watching
He's
Big
wild.
Hit. Wow, he reminds me of that uncle. Like you gotta be like, watch what you say, bro. We're actually in the business setting right now.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you know, the listening to his story too is crazy
super
too,
dope.
and having them like reconnect is great.
Even Problem's new album Chupacabra, like
I haven't listened to it.
It's a great album.
He goes by a different name.
Yeah,
right?
Jason Martin, I believe.
Yeah.
But his new album is just crazy. Even though he's an older artist, his new album like hits, and like he's getting great reviews from like a lot of people in the industry. So
I gotta listen to that.
He varies his style, like from like the songs you want to hear to songs you want to chill and listen to. So like it's all there in that album.
That's dope. That's dope.
All right, Max. This has been a great. I mean, we maybe have to set this up again to have a part 2, because I feel like we could definitely go into. I know there's things that I had written down that we didn't get into, but you know, shouts to you, shouts to everything that you've been doing with Neighborhood Sports, with you know, the brand transitioning. I know it's not easy for anyone really to make a career pivot, but especially going from the structure of a pro athlete to now being a business owner and trying to, you know, figure out a new type of structure. So
and doing that at a high level, all spaces. That's crazy.
Yeah. So really appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a million things going on, and I'm glad that we were able to carve some time out for you to come by, and thank you again.
No, I thank you guys for having me on, and I thank you guys just for what you guys do, because I mean, I had a podcast for a year with my dad. We hosted one together, and I know how much work it takes. I mean, I see the setup. I know how much work it takes to do it consistently. And so, I mean, credit to you guys and what you have built with Urban Pitch, more than the podcast, but the media platform. As someone part of this culture and space, I very much appreciate what you guys do beyond having me here today. So on behalf of more than just me, but the football culture appreciates what you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I hope I can be back sometime soon.
Yeah, let's set it up for sure. But this has been another episode of the Urban Pitch Podcast, a beautiful game of life, part of the Believe Network. For Julian Matoroso, Max Ornstil, I'm Ramsey Abushala. We'll see y'all next week.
Yeah.